This time on KEI Fabrication.
Man, I'm glad the job's done, but what a mess I got going. Holy cow. So, well, just like Rich says on The Boss Garage, if you're not filthy, you're not rich. Well, I must be a millionaire then. Hide all the women and children. Hide all the women and children. Hide all the women and children. All the grinding's done. Time to clean the garage.
This is the Ford Explorer in a 2001 that I purchased. Found it on Craigslist. Well folks, I just came back from the scrapyard. So I ran up to the scrapyard. Oh, up here's the junkyard. Well, we're back in the junkyard.
Hey folks, I was making pretty good progress. I've got everything stripped down. Got the upper control arm off. I'm in the process of cleaning the frame up, getting ready to blow some paint on it. My issue is this Pitman arm. Typically on a vehicle with this type of steering components, the center link is the serviceable part or the replaceable part. In this particular situation, the Pitman arm has the wear item on it, which is the ball and socket joint that connects to the center link. I'm having a little trouble getting this center link off. I have a Pitman arm puller, and as you can see, it's missing one of the claws. I had it cranked up pretty good and it broke. I tried a 3-jaw puller on it and it's just not providing enough force. There's quite a bit of corrosion. I know you probably can't see it between the Pitman arms. So what I'm going to do is make absolutely certain the replacement Pitman arm that I have is the correct one. And then I'm going to take my grinder and grind a slot in this down just to the point where I'm about ready to break through to the splines. And then I'll take a chisel and drive it in that slot that I cut with the grinding wheel. And then by driving that chisel in there, it'll act as a wedge and hopefully open up the tapered spline here. And at the very least, at that point, I should be able to, if it doesn't come off on its own, I should be able to use the 3-jaw puller and then get that baby off. So the only apprehension I have is that the part that I ordered is in fact the absolutely perfect correct fit. And the danger is by cutting this one off, and if it's not the correct one, then I don't drive the vehicle for a few days while I wait for the correct one to show up. So I'm going to double check that fitment, and then I will grind a slot in this and continue to try to work to get this off. Finish my cleanup of the area where the upper control arm goes on, and as well as the lower control arm, and then I'll spray some paint on it. And while that's drying, I will prep parts to go back on and maybe even take apart the other side. I think it just let go. Yep, I can see the gap. So that worked, folks. Hopefully the new Pitman arm will go back on. Ta-da! The new Pitman arm is right here. So this has a dead spline in it, in line with the thing, and there's a dead spline on the. So it looks like it'll be the correct fit. So I lucked out on that one. So anyway, I'm going to clean this up real well and then get this all painted up, and then I will install the Pitman arm and start reassembling the front suspension. Alright folks, what I've done here is the old ball joint to mock up what's happening here. and I put all 4 fasteners in to make sure that the spacer is where it belongs. And then I welded along the side, and I also welded underneath where the spacer overlaps the control arm, and therefore when I welded it, the weld is not out into the area where the ball joint is going to need to be. So I don't have to grind it. So hopefully that puts all the integrity and probably even more back into the lower control arm as a result of cutting away a portion of it to take the ball joint and move it from underneath the control arm to above the control arm. Okay folks, so I'm getting ready to assemble it back together. The lower ball joint used to be positioned like this. You can see that I'm just moving it in the same orientation, just from the bottom of the control arm to the top of the control arm. I went to the hardware store, and all as they had for bolts with this is 10 millimeter 1.25 threads. This is the only one they had. It's a 8.8, which is a lower grade strength. I ordered from McMaster Carr a bag of 10 of these shouldered bolts, so the shoulder will actually be registering in the spacer that I put in, and the threads will fully engage the ball joint. So I still went ahead and bought these for mock-up purposes so I could make sure that everything was good, but I do not want to chance 8.8 hardware and used 10.9 hardware. I don't know if you can see that or not, but these are actually labeled 10.9. So I'm going to put the lower ball joint in, and I will torque them to spec. So folks, when you're replacing complete components, I've been in the alignment industry for a while, and if you have the entire piece available to you and you have brand new components to go in, it's really best to set them up so they're almost identical to where they were when you took them out. And what it does is it helps keep the car close. Particularly with tie rod ends, because the order of operations when you're doing an alignment is caster, camber, then toe. So if you've got your toe close to where the factory spec was, then your caster and camber adjustments might work out okay the first time you set them. Once you set toe, if it was radically in or radically out, you may have to go back and center the steering box up, or you may end up having to go back and fine-tune your caster and camber adjustments. So I've lined everything up close. I've got equal adjustment left in each of the ends of the tie rod ends. This is a left and right hand thread, so when you're setting toe, you spin it in one direction and it'll lengthen it or shorten it. And I chose to buy all new components. First of all, these are like $6 delivered, so why even bother taking them apart? I am going to save these as spares. It's another reason why I kept this intact and didn't take these out and put them in. Originally I was being super cheap and I was going to reuse these, and then when I found these on Amazon for $6 a piece delivered, I was like, why even bother taking them apart? Plus I'll have a complete spare if we ever start drifting this thing and we bounce it off of somebody's car or the wall. We'll have a tie rod end assembly that we can throw right back in. These actually have no wear, or no detectable wear. They're super tight still. They're not dry. The reason why I chose to change them, as I mentioned before, they had 200,000 miles on them. They're amazingly good condition, but the boots deteriorated. You can see the boots actually split at the halfway joint point. So splashing on the roads, dirt, water is going to make its way in there, and they say once this happens you get about 400 miles winter driving with the salt on the roads and things like that, that it'll start to self-destruct. So for spares, these are great. So we're going to keep them in the spares pile, and then we'll have brand new ones on there. Hopefully that'll build some confidence in the steering, and just peace of mind from the standpoint that I no longer have 200,000 mile components. I have zeros on these, so we know where we're starting from with this project. Alright, stay tuned. Hey folks, I was just thinking about what, years ago back in the day when we're doing circle track racing and you had to run all stock factory suspension components. You were allowed to interchange stuff, but you couldn't purchase or modify anything too crazy, at least without taking a chance of getting bounced by a tech. So what I wanted to show you, if I can attempt to here, this is the driver's side one, upper control arm. This is the passenger side. So if I wanted to increase caster, the upper ball joint would want to move towards the rear of the vehicle. This is the front of the vehicle because this is the driver's side. So what would happen if you took the passenger side control arm and put it on the driver's side? You would increase your caster by a tremendous amount, almost 3 inches. The ball joint would move from towards the front to the rear. Now that would be super excessive, I think, for this particular application, but it was something that we did back in the day for circle track racing when we had to run stock suspension. We could swap out Camaro stuff for G-body stuff. We could take the 75 Impala stuff because it was heavier duty, longer length control arms and things like that. So I was just curious for drifting. More caster is always better. I'm going to put it in the stock position, and that's how my brain works. I'm always thinking and trying to use what I've learned years ago into present day. Okay folks, the driver's side is all together. We got the new shock in. Upper control arm is ready to be aligned. The only thing I'm going to wait on is the strut rod bushing, because I think when the vehicle is on the ground, certainly under its own weight, I'll have a better chance of getting all that stuff loose. So Pitman arms in, all the cotter pins are in, the tie rod ends are ready to be adjusted, brake lines hooked up, calipers back on. So this side is 100% minus whatever I need to do for the alignment. So I'm going to put the tire back on this side, so when I set it down I can start taking caster and camber readings and eventually get to tow. And I'm going to jump over to the other side and hopefully make that side look as pretty as this side. Alright folks, we've got the passenger side ready to go together. I've wire brushed it, cleaned it, and painted it, and got the new Pitman arm on. Excuse me, that's the idler arm. And then I have the upper control arm ready to go on. So I'm going to assemble this thing now, and then I want to try and get it on the wheels and start the alignment as soon as possible. Hey folks, I just wanted to show you a minor modification that I found as a result of putting this together. When the suspension is fully extended, the new control arm was hitting on the spindle right here. And that is because I moved the ball joint from the bottom side of the control arm to the top side of the control arm. And this wouldn't be an issue if you just had a street vehicle. This is only at full extension. You get a little bit of rubbing on the upper control arm versus the spindle. So the only reason why I am extremely interested in this is I want my suspension to be fully extended on launch during drag racing, and I don't want it to bind here. So I needed it to fully compress these rubber stopper bushings here with it fully extended. And as it turns out, that is the fully extended travel of the shock. So it's I could increase my front end travel if I got rid of these rubber bushings, but I would be relying on the shock as my travel limiter. I would need a longer shock to do that, so I don't want to do that. So just basically all as I did was, here's the old control arm. You can see the white line that I drew. I just trimmed it away. It's slightly different from the replacement control arm to the factory one, but just a minor adjustment so the suspension would fully extend and fully rotate left and right. So unfortunately I got to take apart the other side because I didn't discover this until I did the passenger side, so I got to go make that same modification to the driver's side. Alright folks, we're well into the preliminary aspects of the alignment. I know what I have for caster and camber. I am making some minor adjustments so I get a performance alignment out of the deal. The last step is changing out the strut rods, and this is why I'm changing them out. I knew that they were getting bad. Obviously these are original, they're 200,000 miles, and I am putting some aftermarket ones in. I have no idea if these are any good or not. I'm hoping that they'll serve the situation well, and things are going good. I got it apart and I'm putting it back together, and then I'll do my final caster and camber adjustments, and then the last thing to do is tow, and the complete front end rebuild will be finished. So I lowered the truck about 1 inch, and I'll give you, it's got a little more of a rake now from front to back. I'm going to correct that with some lowering blocks in the rear. I just needed to get the front done first so I know how low I would like to lower the rear. This is as low as I dare to go with the, you can see my oil pan is right here, and I've got a guard on it. If you watch some of my other videos, I've got a metal guard, so if I hit any curbs or anything, it makes contact with that before it ever comes in contact with the cast aluminum pan. So this is as low as I dare to go for now, and I need to get it outside and drive it around a little bit and let it settle down, and figure out if there's any further adjustments that need to be made. Well folks, the alignment is done, the complete front end rebuild is done. Doing the old school Kentucky windage method here with the parallel strings. I verified with the string that the rear end was perfectly aligned with the frame rail, and then you align one wheel with that, and then you set your initial toe to the wheel that's parallel. I've got 4.5 degrees of positive caster and 1/2 degree of negative camber, and on both sides, so the split should be good. And I've got 1/8 of an inch toe in, so it's a street, mostly street alignment. Man, I'm glad the job's done, but what a mess I got going. Holy cow. So, well, just like Rich says on DeBoss Garage, if you're not filthy, you're not rich. Well, I must be a millionaire then. So anyway, I'm gonna get this thing going, set it down on the ground, take my alignment stuff off, and we are going to take it for a test drive. I know for a fact I'm going to have to center the steering wheel. The process of doing the alignment and squaring the front end is the parallel strings make sure that it's like the thrust angle alignment that a four-wheel alignment shop would do. And the other thing you do is you measure in a crisscross fashion from your steering box to the idler arm, and then from the frame mounting point of the idler arm over to the Pitman arm. Set that equal. That means your steering box is in the center of its travel, and then I'll have to go in and change the wheel crossbar to make sure it's parallel. But more important than having my crossbar straight right now is that my alignment is correct and my steering box is centered, so I get equal travel from left to right. So that's it for today, folks. The alignment's done. We'll do a quick test drive, and man, then I gotta clean the shop. So all my tools are out. They all need to be wiped off and put away. Big thrash. I'm happy it's done. I hope the performance of it is good as well. Hey folks, I'm on my way to work here this morning. I'm on the highway, and I just want to say that after my old school alignment techniques and everything, I'm very, very happy with the alignment. I can drive it with just a light touch on the wheel. The steering crossbar is nice and straight. It doesn't pull left or right. So what does that mean? If your vehicle goes down the road and you let go of the wheel and it goes straight down the road, the number one contributing factor of that, as long as your tire pressures are good, your tires are not worn or the belts aren't broken, your camber and toe are within spec, your caster adjustment is what helps your vehicle go down the road with the minimal amount of effort and steering input. Very happy with the alignment, the thrust angle of the rear end, and aligning the front tires with the rear tires. It just goes down the road and holds the lane nice and straight with the crossbar of the steering wheel nice and straight. So as an alignment technician years and years and years ago, you could do the worst job on an alignment, but when the customer got in the car and the crossbar was perfectly straight when they went down the road, they considered that you did a good job on the alignment. Now obviously your goal would be to get everything within spec and also achieve no pull in the left side or to the right side, and the crossbar perfectly horizontal or however the steering wheel is configured, and give the customer what they expect and give them the best life and wear and performance out of their tires and their vehicles. So it takes a long time to do an alignment accurately with old school methods, strings and levels and tape measures and all those sorts of things, but when it's done and it works correctly, it just gives you a good feeling. So the truck's come a long way in the last three weeks with the brake conversion, the master cylinder, getting that squared away. The alignment's done now. I've got a performance alignment in the thing with increased caster and a tiny bit of camber. Man, it really corners well. It enters the corner well. The truck rotates good. So I'm just excited about it. You know, as this build goes further and further along, obviously when the motor went in and the transmission, every time you started up it made you smile. Every time you got on the gas pedal it made you smile. Now, you know, when I turn a corner or I get on the highway, the steering makes me smile. When I step on the brake pedal, it makes me smile. If I spin the rear tires, both tires are spinning now, that makes me smile. There's not a lot of things about this vehicle right now that don't make me smile, and it's just a matter of how much does it make you smile at this point. Hopefully the next phase here in another week or two will be the installation of the cam and the valve springs, and I hope my smile goes from just a grin to a full-blown ear-to-ear face-cracking smile. So both from a sound and performance level. So what we'll get into here in the next episode is the actual drag week preparation. Got a list going. I've got a bunch of components that I ordered, and I really hope that I can get everything done on the checklist, and all of that stuff works as well as everything else has here so far. Been very fortunate. Run into some hurdles. The hurdles are relatively easy to overcome. Just a little more, bang knuckles and sweat and information and teaching myself, getting an education on some of this stuff, and that's kind of what I enjoy about these projects. So I look forward to the next episode where we actually start getting the drag week list, getting some items crossed off on it, and I've got a bunch of additional things to help the reliability and get it prepared for that test of endurance and performance. So thanks for for watching, and we'll get back at this real soon.
Next time on KEI Fabrication.
This stuff is kind of in conjunction with my list here. Now I've got a few things on the list that I can